In the event of an engine failure in flight, your first priority should be giving yourself as much time as possible to handle the situation. The best way to do this is to stay calm and methodically work through the procedure, beginning with your immediate action items, which should be accomplished from memory. First and foremost, you will want to establish your best glide speed. In the Cessna, under normal conditions, this will typically be 68 knots indicated airspeed. As you practice this maneuver with your instructor, be sure to pay close attention to the pitch attitude that will give you that airspeed at idle power. That way, if you find yourself in a real engine failure scenario, you can set the pitch attitude, and the airplane will gradually slow to best glide on its own. This will free you up to manage other time-critical tasks. After you have pitched for best glide speed, ensure that the flaps are fully retracted in order to keep the drag on the airplane as low as possible. Once you have attained best glide speed, retrim the airplane so you can focus your attention on finding a suitable place to land. As we have discussed previously, ideally you would like a flat piece of earth, free of obstructions, that is aligned with the wind and long enough to safely bring the airplane to a stop with minimal braking. Begin by looking in the immediate area around you. Remember, there may be a perfect spot beneath or behind you, so don't limit your search to what is directly in front of you. If there is nothing in the immediate area, scan further out to find a safe place to land within gliding distance from your current altitude. Once you have selected an appropriate landing site, turn the airplane towards it and advise your flight or check instructor of your site and your direction of intended landing. Now that you are descending toward your landing site, you have time to attempt a restart. Again, these items need to be completed from memory, so spend some time practicing this flow either in the airplane or by chair flying in front of a cockpit poster. Since the most common cause of engine failures is fuel starvation, you want to make sure that the engine is receiving the proper fuel flow. First, physically check the fuel selector valve and verify that it is in the both position. Then push the fuel shutoff valve all the way in so that it is in the on position. From there, move to the mixture control and depress the knob to the full forward position. Turn the auxiliary fuel pump on. If the propeller is still windmilling, verify that the ignition switch is set to both. If the propeller is stopped, turn the ignition switch to the start position to attempt an engine restart. If the engine starts and runs, congratulations! Turn the airplane to the nearest airport, gain some altitude, and land as soon as practicable. If the engine failed to restart, you've still got some work to do. Again, verify that you are at best glide speed and still on track to make it to your landing site. Since the engine did not restart with the addition of fuel, you may have flooded the engine. You will now attempt a flooded restart. Verify that the fuel selector valve is still on both and that the fuel shutoff valve is pushed all the way in. Now, smoothly pull the mixture control out to the idle cutoff position and smoothly push the throttle to the full forward position. Turn off the fuel pump and check your fuel flow. If the flow immediately drops to 0 gallons per hour, that is a sign that the engine-driven fuel pump has failed, and you may have just discovered the cause of your problem. If that happens, immediately turn the auxiliary pump back on. If the engine restarts, smoothly move the mixture control back to full forward and adjust the throttle to your desired power setting and land as soon as practicable at the nearest airport. If the engine still hasn't restarted at this point, it probably won't. Squawk 7700 on your transponder and declare a Mayday emergency on 121.5.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Riddle 405 is 7 miles due west of Flagler, 2,500 feet. We've had an engine failure and we'll be landing in a field directly beneath us. 2 souls aboard, 2 hours and 30 minutes of fuel remaining.
Now that you have completed all of the memory items, it is time to secure the cabin for an emergency landing. For these steps, use the engine failure during flight checklist. The first thing on the list is ensuring that all seats and seatbacks are upright for the landing and that everyone has their seatbelt securely fastened. While it's not on the checklist, this is also a good time to secure any loose items in the cabin that could become flying projectiles in the event of a sudden stop. Once the passengers and cabin are secure, it's time to secure the engine and airplane. Pull out the fuel shutoff valve so that it is in the off position. Pull the mixture control out to the idle cutoff position. You will want flaps to help with your landing, but since you have no engine power, you must make sure you'll still be able to make your landing point with the flaps down. Wait until you can guarantee making your field before adding full flaps. After that, activate the ELT by turning the switch to on. Now it is time to secure the electrical system. Turn off the ignition switch and place the standby battery switch in the off position. Once the flaps are down and your last mayday has been transmitted, turn off the alternator and battery master switches. Just prior to touchdown, unlatch the cabin doors by lifting both handles. This will prevent the doors from jamming after a hard landing. Be sure that you touch down slightly tail low and use aerodynamic and mechanical braking to slow the airplane after landing. By keeping calm and methodically working through the checklist and procedure, an engine failure in flight can absolutely be a manageable emergency. Be aware of your surroundings at all times, and always be on the lookout for potential landing sites in case something goes wrong, so you are never caught off guard and forced into a bad situation. Plan and manage your approach, maintain control of the aircraft, and even an emergency such as this can be handled successfully. Now that we've covered how to fly the maneuver, let's look at the end goals for your skills in an emergency approach and landing. Some of the standards for the end-of-course check ride include: analyze the situation and select an appropriate course of action. Establish and maintain the recommended best glide airspeed, plus or minus 10 knots. Select a suitable landing area. Plan and follow a flight pattern to the selected landing area, considering altitude, wind, terrain, and obstructions. Prepare for landing or go-around as specified by the examiner, and follow the appropriate checklists.